Right, we are live. We're going to give folks a few minutes to start joining and coming in here. Welcome, welcome. We are just gathering. Hey, Mary. We'll do our usual 4 after the top of the hour. We'll get rolling. Hello, everybody. If somebody would do me a favor and let me know if you can hear and see me okay. Hey, Mary. Yes. Welcome. Welcome, Glennis. Good to see you. Hey, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Glennis. Good deal. We'll get rolling here at 4 after. We'll give folks an opportunity to jump in, deal with any technical issues, get situated, and we'll get rolling. Just trying to wrap some things up for the day. It was an extremely busy day for me. Hopefully you guys got a lot done. All of our Aussie friends that are just getting started, hopefully your day is going to be awesome today. It's getting started with mealworms. What could be better, right? Let me adjust this a little bit. We're in the office right now. I am mobile. That's partly the good news. The downside is Ben is in the farm right now doing beetle swapping, so we may not be able to go in there straight away. All right. Thank you guys for joining. Busy worm day coming up here. Good. The busy days are the best. They fly by, but you get a lot done. I've got my handy dandy water for all the talking. I was hoping to be able to grab a beer, but I did not have the chance to do that today, so we're just going to stick with the water because it's the end of the day for me. So, but that's all right. One more minute. Thank you guys for joining. All right. Well, we will get rolling. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Late afternoon for me here, wherever you might be. My name is Justin Meyer. I'm an admin in the Mealworm Farming Co-op group, and we are doing our weekly live session. Late evening session for me, morning session for our Aussie friends. And what we're going to do is walk through any questions that you guys might have, anything you want to see. Slight limitation today with Ben in the farm. If we have to go in there, I'll throw a mask on, but for now, we are in the office, so we're hanging out here. Nothing major. New addition there, got some shelving in. But we're here to chat mealworms. So questions you guys might have, any issues you're having, anything you want to walk through, successes too, please share those. Love to see those. That helps all of us here. So we will get rolling. Ian, good morning from Western Australia. Welcome. One piece of advice, and honestly, if you guys could help me out a little bit, Facebook is a little bit frustrating lately. So if I miss a comment, and I've heard of this happening to some others, so hence the advice piece. If I miss a comment here, or it seems like I'm ignoring you, please tag me or send me a message via Facebook. and I'll tackle that. The scrolling here is a challenge, and then every now and then it just doesn't show me some of the comments, some of the questions. So if it seems like I'm ignoring you, it's probably because I didn't see the question. So tag me in that, or shoot me an instant message. An instant message, I'm showing my age. That was an AOL term, right? AOL Instant Messenger. Some bigger news today, for me anyway. The Mealworm Sifters are in. So I've got blue and... didn't prepare for this. There we go. Blue and white. It's got the pour spout on it. So these are similar to the Superworm Sifters. I haven't made any videos lately of the Mealworm Sifter, but the intent of this is to be able just to capture your harvestable mealworms or your feeders that you're going to feed off, similar to the Superworm Sifter. So some of the mealworms are going to fall through. It's not designed to, sift and sort in mass. This is just to get some feeders out of a bin, or if you need to sell some real quick. I use this whenever somebody says, hey, I need to stop by and get 500 or 1,000 or 2,000. I'll use this guy to sift out the substrate real quick. Handy pour spout there to get it in the cup, and off she goes. All right, I have a question about sifting. Thank you, Catherine. Let me do. Question about sifting. I have the 5-pan plus the 1/30th. I can't seem to get them to sift into sizes, so you can please explain the process for it. I find that small ones are in the larger, and then some large ones still go through this through into the smaller ones. There are size sorters, but I get the same with the sieves. I'm struggling with it at the moment. So, Catherine, you're talking about the green sifters, right? The 5 pans with the green sifters that are mesh of various sizes. So I'm going to go with that until you correct me or tell me that you've got something different. So with those sifters, a couple things to help with the actual sorting into sizes. The first thing is the mesh. Those mealworms will tend to get stuck in there. So the mesh is somewhat, it's not a sticky mesh, right? But they'll just get jammed in there because their hind end ends up getting through that, and then the rest of their body can't make it through. And so what I find is that if I overload that sifter, so if I put more than, let's say, 1 inch in there of just straight mealworms, it's going to take a longer time for them to sift through, to let the small ones through, because one, they're going to have that inch for the small ones to be crawling around in and not going down. And two, as you put more weight on top of there, it's going to kind of compact down at the bottom, and they're going to get stuck more easily. So you want to make sure you're not overloading that bin or that sifter, the green sifter. And then the other thing is add some vibration. So if you just sit it on a 5-gallon bucket and fill them and walk away, they will sort themselves, air quotes there. They will do that. It's just going to take a long time, and they're less prone to start to go down through those different meshes. So it takes longer. So what I did before I had the vibration sifter, I would take that and kind of roll it on one edge. I would roll it around. That helped me with a couple things. One, it helped to add some of that vibration in there, some of that movement to incentivize them and to get them to go down. The other thing that helped with was making sure that I didn't overload those bins, because as I'm rolling it around, if I overloaded it, they would spill out. And so that was actually the epiphany for me, because I was loading them up really thick and it didn't seem to be working. So I removed what I had put in there, put in a little bit less, and then did the rolling around with the 5-gallon bucket, and that helped out tremendously, adding just that movement. And then longer term, we went to that sifter that you've seen that just goes back and forth. It's sitting on a vibration plate that just goes like that very, very quickly. And so the vibration does the same thing as the movement. It's just giving that movement in there to move those mealworms around and get them moving, basically, and they'll go migrate down through the trays. I also don't use more than 3 at a time for the most part. Every now and then I have to add and it's been a long time since we've had to do this. This was in the old farm when we were a bit smaller. Every now and then I would put the bigger one on top to catch larger pieces of potatoes or carrots that maybe I had fed and just got clogged up and didn't get eaten. And so I would put that on the top, and I found that really caused it almost wasn't worth it. It didn't sift as well. And so I limit it down to 3. I've got the 1/8 inch, or I'm sorry, the 1/30th for frass. I've got the, what is it? The 108. It's the middle one. It's not the 1/8. That one's on top to get all the beetles, pupa, and large ones. Then there's a middle one that collects some of the medium size or small to medium if you want those. And then the frass sifter. So 3 total is the biggest or the tallest I've found that works. Let me scroll down through here some more. It looks like the questions may have died. Yes, the green sifters. Okay, perfect. So I would give that a shot, Catherine, if you can add some movement into that. And how thick are you putting it in there? Initially I was pouring all that stuff in, and it clogged up and didn't work very well. Glennis, the Superworm Sifters. Yes, so the Superworm Sifters, give me just a sec, I'm gonna unplug my computer. The Superworm Sifters are these guys. So very similar. So here's the Mealworm Sifter, here's the Superworm Sifter, right? And so similar design with the pour spout. The difference is the Superworm Sifter has less slots in it, and they're wider. This one is to get larger superworms, again, for any sort of quick selling that I might be doing or feeding off. And then this one is the Mealworm Sifter. So this is the newer one that I just got in. Both of these I designed, 3D printed, tested, redid, iterated several times, and landed on this design. So I found a local 3D printer because mine is broken, and I am focused on raising mealworms right now, not on 3D printing. So I had somebody do that for me locally. All right, 1/12. That's the one in the middle, right? Yes. That's the one in the middle. Glennis, available in Australia store? No, but since this isn't a live thing, it could be shipped there. I'd have to look into that. The other potential option I'm looking at is it's a 3D printed item, and so every 3D printed item comes with a file that any 3D printer would be able to take that file and then print it. The problem with that is once that's out in the wild, it's open source at that point, and can go anywhere. So let me know if you're interested in that. We'll chat via DM. Questions about mites? Bring them on. Mites are on my mind today. I don't have them right now, but I've been thinking about it as I expand. I've got a whole slew of things that I'm concerned about and different things I might tackle. But while you're throwing some questions out, Rodney, that is correct. It's the 1/12. So you've got 1/8 as the top one, 1/12 in the middle. If you want to collect the middle ones, or the small to medium, and then 1/30th on the bottom. Right now, I'm not actually collecting the small ones. So everything that I sell is that 3/4 inch average, and then I keep the larger ones to keep the colony going. And so what I'm doing is I'm using the 1/8 and the 1/30th. We do a sift there to do a quick separation of the size, and then the frass. Then we take what's in the 1/8 and we put that through another mesh to separate it down to get just the harvestable mealworms. So that's what we're doing right now. But that 1/12 is good to get. If you are raising geckos, or if you have someone who has reptiles, a lot of times the baby reptiles are going to need those smaller mealworms, and it's sort of a pain to have to go and cut up the big ones. And so it's very, very popular for reptile folks to reach out and ask for smaller mealworms. Shannon, I see this question here. Is the mealworm housing per square inch the same as the beetles per square inch, or can I have more mealworms in a container than I can beetles? Let me think about that for a sec. You can definitely have more mealworms in a container than beetles. So in my blue trays, I've got the dimensions, rough dimensions on those. They're 600 millimeters by 400 millimeters, which is about 24 inches by 16 inches. And I have 1,500 beetles in there. So I think that's 384 square inches, and there's some math involved with that. But you can definitely get more mealworms in because that's only 1,500 beetles. And those trays can hold probably 10,000 mealworms just fine. So you can definitely fit more mealworms in there. As far as how many you can fit in there, it really depends on the size. So what we're doing here is we're putting 1,500 beetles in a tray. They lay eggs for a week. We remove those beetles, and then that tray sits and lets the eggs hatch and start growing. And then we leave that tray be until we start seeing larger mealworms or pupa in there. Once we see pupa, we're gonna take those things and get them out because we don't want those pupa to hatch and then put beetle eggs into that frass. We want to avoid that, right? We don't want people with mealworms in their frass. And so what we'll do is we'll harvest that tray, and it's going to have probably 7,500 to 10,000 mealworms at that point. That's a rough guess. But the size is really what matters, because you could fit, like right now when we harvest, we put 20,000 medium mealworms in a tray to sit as we continue and do the rest. And so we'll put 20,000 in there, and then that's like a max amount. That's just like a temporary holding scenario. But they'll generate a lot of heat. With the younger mealworms, they don't generate as much heat unless there's a lot of them all together. So you could get probably 40,000 small mealworms in a container that's our size, but there really wouldn't be a huge benefit to it because there's not a need for that right now. We're taking whatever isn't harvested whenever we do sift a tray, and we put that back in the colony to let everything grow. And we'll have smaller ones and medium ones that kind of go back in and have to grow anyway. I was glad I can do that math for my size containers. Perfect. And this is, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, this is recorded by Facebook. So once they process it, make sure everybody's doing everything that is okay, it'll go ahead and post in the group. So you can rewatch this again later and get those numbers. All right, good questions in here. Lynn, I'm referring to almost full grown. So in a 24 by 16, I probably wouldn't put more than, you could put 10,000 in, but that would be pushing it, because once you put substrate in, they're going to start generating heat. Well, they'll generate heat regardless, but the substrate will help maintain and hold that heat in. It becomes a heat sink, basically. So it's really going to depend on what your temperature is as far as how many you can put in there. Because the more you put in, the more heat they're going to have, the more heat they're going to generate. If it's a closed container too, like if you've got a drawer system and you're closing that drawer, it's going to maintain or hold that heat even more. So fairly dependent on what size you're doing there. The other thing is, I'll throw another curveball in for you. Whenever we cold storage our mealworms, I put them in one of those dough proofing trays. I'm doing this, but you can't see it. One of the dough proofing trays. And I put 30,000 in one of those and then put it in the fridge. You want to aim for no more than 1 inch to 1.25 inches, maybe 1.5 inches in depth of whatever container if you're doing cold storage like that. But there's an example where we overload it, but they're going into a fridge, so they're not going to generate that heat. They're going to slow down, and I'm trying to maximize space within the fridge. All right, so there's a bunch of questions here. Let me scroll back up here. I also saw, who did I see that came in here and said hi? I saw somebody, now I can't remember who that was. Oh, this scrolling is so fun. Brid's here. Hey. How often do you spray your babies? Catherine. So we started spraying about a month ago. We've done it in the past and then stopped because of space reasons. And so we started back up again after I was looking at some notes from our notebook about, and it dawned on me, hey, we haven't been spraying for a while. So we spray Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week. Typically, so in the US, Saturday, Sunday is a weekend, and so nobody else comes in. I come in on Sundays to get the mealworms prepped that need to ship out on Monday, except for next week. Monday's a holiday. I'll come in on Sunday, and I won't spray the babies on Sunday because then that messes with the overall week. I'm trying not to spray back-to-back days. I want to be careful with too much moisture. I want to get used to it again, make sure everything's okay. And it's a net new process for this building. And so I want to make sure that the moisture we're putting into those bins is either eaten or evaporates or gets up into the air within 24 hours. So I reduce the mold probability and mites. So I'm spraying every 2 days, and I have not sprayed the most, how do I want to say this? The most youngest? The youngest? Most youngest probably isn't a thing. It's late Friday. I don't spray the youngest. So like right now, Ben is doing beetle swap. He's taking the beetles out. He's putting the egg-laden substrate back into the original tray, and then that goes into a stack, and that's off and growing. I'm not going to spray that tray for a week. So I let those eggs hatch out before I go in and start spraying with water. And the humidity in the room is also helpful there. I don't have to spray the super young ones to keep them hydrated and going. All right, Donna, thank you for coming. I see your question here. Thank you guys for being patient. There's a ton of questions. I'm going to scroll through them and hit them as I can. So I'm on Donna's here. Why do I keep getting mold in my worm tray? I have potatoes, paper towels, apples, carrot, cricket cubes, and wheat bran. Donna, do you have an open tray or a closed tray? Because that sounds like a ton of moisture in a bin. Are these young mealworms? Are they old mealworms? Are they beetles? My thought is that what's likely happening here is you've got decent humidity in your room, wherever your mealworms are kept, or in a closed drawer system. That moisture has nowhere to go, so it's going to stay in there. And you're likely adding too much of the moisture sources, like the potatoes, carrots, apples, etc. So what I would suggest is take those things out and start fresh and new the next day. Put in maybe a slice of apple, something very minimal, and you're going to feel like you're depriving your mealworms, and they're going to suffer and whatnot. Trust me, they're not. Mealworms can go months without physical moisture. They can pull it out of the air. So they're not going to get hurt by this. This is going to help you understand how quickly that particular bin is going through a moisture source. So add in one slice of apple, add in one slice of potato, from the middle of the potato, something decent size, not a little tiny piece. Add in a slice of that, come back the next day and check on it. If it's gone, then when you feed again, do 2 slices and see how that goes. And you'll start to get a feel. Start with minimal and work up. Don't go the other way. Trust me, they are not going to get hurt by this. You could deprive them of moisture for weeks on end, and they'll be able to recover. They won't thrive. They're not going to look plump and fantastic and amazing, but they'll be okay. And that's a good way for you to get familiar with your trays and with your setup. All right, I'm scrolling. Here we go. All right, Glennis, lots of questions, guys. Thank you. I'm keeping 5 tubs of supers sitting over water with heat mats below. They're just surviving in that environment inside a garage that gets down to 12 degrees Celsius at night. That's chilly. But I've also got several separated super bins that I've got not with heat, simply because I don't have the heaters to keep them warm in the laundry. What do you think of the lowest temp they can survive on? Supers can get down to, I want to say it's like 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. I am terrible with the Fahrenheit to Celsius. But that's probably the lowest I would go with the supers. You could increase the heat in that by putting a lid over the top, and then they'll hold that heat inside in the bin. That would be one way to do that. Potentially adding blankets around the bins to help insulate them from the side would be another option that's not like active heating, right? Like using electric to heat things or heat mats like you're using. Some way to allow the supers to hold the heat in that they're generating as they move around. That's probably the goal you want to try to hit there in the situation you've got. But down to 40 to 45, 40 is probably pushing it. And that's Fahrenheit too. I spray mine each day, but I live in a 45% humidity. Shannon, thank you for that reply. Good context. I'm referring to supers with mites. I got them early, tiny dots, but a lot of them. Yes, yes. Max is here. Max is lurking. I love that. I love that. Yep, Glennis, you're still here. I got you. I'm trying to kill mites. Split pea flour. Come with me. So there's a study on, it was mealworms and mites, but you could test this with supers. Split pea flour. Oh man, this thing's heavy. So this knocks me over. Somebody call 911 for me. All right. So what we've got here, let me turn this around. Split pea flour is nothing but ground up, dehydrated or dried peas. And so there's yellow, there's green, mine's green. You want to get the hard dried peas. Usually here in the US they're cut in halves, or they're in halves naturally. Sorry, that's my lack of knowledge. And then I grind them up, so it's a nice floury type consistency. You could get it in the flour state. It just depends on what you have access to. I actually order the split peas in bulk and then grind it myself. But you can get this in smaller amounts. I would test this with the supers first, Glennis. I have not used this with supers. It doesn't bother or hurt the mealworms, and it's a good way to get rid of the mites. It's also a proactive way. There are folks that put this proactively in their substrate. And that way it's sort of a detractant or deterrent for the mites if and when they do occur. So what I would say is grab some, grab some of your supers that you're willing to lose, like they're going to die if they're exposed to split pea flour, and give that a shot. See how they react to it. And then if there are no negative responses from the supers, you could apply that to your overall bin. Yes. Doing it all. The comment about keeping the supers warm is about them having mites. I'm using the pea flour and everything. Okay, good. Sorry, I did not see that comment as I went through that whole spiel that you're probably sitting there going, yeah, I got it. How long can supers go without moisture? I have shipped supers and included like a couple like French fry kind of slices of potato for their travel. They stayed there at the post office and weren't picked up by the person that ordered them. And then the post office shipped them back. And it came back and arrived about 2.5 weeks later, and they were fine. So 2 weeks, they probably had eaten through that potato within the first couple days. So 2 weeks, I think, is a reasonable number. You could probably push that too. But I think after 2 weeks, your mites would start to go away if there's no moisture and it's low humidity. Trying to keep them warm without food, kill the mites, it's a little bit hard. Yes, I did see, you're absolutely right, mites are terrible. I did see somebody, I can't remember if it was in the co-op group or not, they were putting a cup of water down in the bin. So it was taller than the substrate, and they were putting the water down in the bin, and the mites were attracted to it. So they would go into the water and get stuck and they would die. Where did I see that? I feel like it might have been in the co-op group recently. And so I have not tried that, but that could be something else, because put that in there, Glennis, and you probably want to use with supers, they're a little mightier, right? So you probably want to use a larger container that's sturdy, and put some water in it, make it taller water traps. I do that. Perfect. Do they work? Are they working? It sounds like you're doing everything that they tip them over. What about like a wider, like this is real skinny. Can you do a wider bottomed container? Then you get into like size restrictions around putting that in there, and the supers getting deeper. Had they eaten each other? I don't think they had started to eat each other. I did not go back and count them or weigh them. I did put them in a container and rehydrated them. I kept them separate from the rest of the colony and rehydrated them, and they were normal and fine. Use wise-based containers. Yep. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing everything everything that needs to happen. I would think that that's going to work out pretty well. It's just going to take some time. All right. If I missed anybody, please tag me in there. That's not working to scroll. Let's try this one. There we go. Catherine, I've heard that some people are using chicken crumble in their substrate. What's this for? I currently just use the brand. Chicken crumble is popular for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of people that raise mealworms on their own are doing it for reptiles or poultry. And if you're raising poultry and you're raising mealworms, you've got access to chicken crumble, and you're probably buying it in larger quantities. And so it just makes sense to be able to use it in your mealworm colony as well. It also has more protein in it than most substrates. I just got some chicken crumble to test with the superworms, and it was 20% protein, and wheat bran is around 10 to 15 depending on what it is. And so it's also got other things in it, the chicken crumble, other nutrients that wheat bran or oats or something does not have. You want to make sure, if you want to play around with that, you want to make sure you get non-medicated chick feed. The medicated chick feed will kill the mealworms. I haven't tested with the superworms. I don't think there's going to be an issue. I have used it in the past with mealworms. And one, it's if you're using chicken crumbles already for your chickens, use that for your mealworms, and it's just an easy process thing. But two, I haven't integrated it because from an input cost perspective, yes, it's more nutrition. They will probably grow faster on something like chicken crumbles that has higher protein and different nutrients, but chicken crumbles from in my region are more expensive than wheat bran, and so it's an input cost in versus what you save. And so at some point, once I have enough data here at the farm, I'm going to go through and look at, if I was able to trim off, I don't know, 2 weeks, let's just guess here. If I was able to trim off 2 weeks of growth from for that mealworm by using chicken crumble, what am I paying in feed for those 6 to 8 weeks at that point versus 8 to 10 on wheat bran? And what am I paying in electricity, in inputs like water gel crystal or potatoes, carrots, etc.? There might be a point where it makes sense, if you can get the chicken crumble at the right price, or if wheat bran, that's a commodity, if that price goes up but chicken crumbles don't, that sort of thing. There's some interesting math there that could be worthwhile. But for right now, it's straightforward, it's simple, and it's not something I mess with, just to keep it easy. All right, awesome questions, guys. Let's see, I'm scrolling down here. Catherine, at what point do you add it in? Only in the last few weeks? No, I know people who use chicken crumbles exclusively for their mealworms. And so you could start them on that. For baby mealworms, though, the chicken crumbles sometimes they're very dense, very hard. If you can crush that up somehow, that will help the mealworms be able to consume that without having to expend a lot of energy. So instead of using that energy to grow, they're using it to chew into something very hard. Wheat bran's not that hard. Oats, things like that, they're not super dense, so they're easier for the smaller babies to eat. Kai, welcome. Good to see you. So Catherine, you could add that in at any point, but I think the younger mealworms would have a harder time with it, so it needs to be ground up. The problem with that, though, is that beetles tend to not enjoy being in things that are very dusty, right? Like think of like flour type substances. If you grind that stuff up really fine and it becomes very powdery, the beetles seem to not enjoy that very much. I haven't done that personally. That's something I'll probably test and play with in the future, but isn't something I'm doing right now. I heard from somebody that the mealworms seem to be struggling. It got in underneath their wings, and just didn't seem like they were thriving as well as non-floury type substrates. Tyler, do you think the market is too saturated to launch a new mealworm business? I am 100% biased here because of what I do and what I did a year ago. I would say no, it's not too saturated. But the reason I say that is a year ago, I left corporate America. I was doing this as a side business for 4 years. I started in 2017. I started in 2015 just for personal use, and then in 2017 formed the LLC, established the business, and started going that path. And then a year ago, so in 2021, it's 2022, right? Oh my gosh, yes. In October of 2021, I resigned from my corporate job. Been there for 15 years, worked with that application for 17 years, and I just needed I needed a change. Wasn't happy anymore. So I moved into this full time. So I'm fairly biased about whether or not this is a good idea to do. I do feel like the demand is there. I have a higher demand than I have supply. I hear good things from other producers. I don't see a big shift in the market in the near future. That being said, there are large players that are opening and starting. Beta Hatch launched there and actually opened their large facility a month ago. Maybe they're up in Washington or Oregon, somewhere up there. They're running I think they're claiming the largest insect farm in the U.S. Although Yinsect might be debating that right now. Not 100% sure. But they opened an enormous automated facility. Their intent is to produce mealworms for the feed industry. They want to get it into feed as a protein replacement for other things like soybeans and whatnot. But I think that there's still a place for small insect farms to produce mealworms and provide whether it's mealworms or some other insect. There's still a market for that. There's still a place for that. So I'm confident it's going to be okay for a while, and who knows what'll happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Really good question, though. All right. Okay, if you guys have any questions, we are 38 minutes in, so we've got another 22-ish minutes. At the top of the hour, we'll round things out. I can go over a little bit tonight if we get into some good questions, some good conversation. So if you guys have anything else, please go ahead and throw it in there. Kai, I remember from a recent thread that, or maybe it was one of the lives we did, you had said you were spraying even your mature larvae and weren't having issues with them climbing and connecting or walking up the side of the tray from all the stuff that sticks to it. I'm going to start playing around with that. What I was thinking after that conversation, I started thinking around why it was that I was having that issue. And I think part of it might have been because my bins were dirty to start with. I wonder if I had not been keeping them clean enough. And so it wasn't the exoskeleton or the random pieces of wheat bran that were causing problems. I wonder if it was from the tray just getting dirty in general. And so in the new farm, and since I'm more available, we're being much more consistent about a tray gets done through the system basically of rearing and going through that, and we're cleaning them, washing them, and then bringing them back in for another round. So I'm going to start playing around with that because I'm super curious about it. Shannon, how do you reuse the water crystals? Mine seem to disappear into the bran. How do you reuse them? So are they drying up before they're eaten? Is that what's happening? How do you reuse your water gel crystals? So they will disappear down into the bran because whether it's water gel crystals or food, potatoes, carrots, etc. As the mealworms go after that, there's a good they're moving underneath it, and so it's going to start to settle. I leave them overnight and they seem to be gone. Well, that's good. They're eating them. right? Like those water gel crystals aren't a reuse item. You hydrate them and then they are ingesting and eating as if it were a carrot or potato. Once they get into that carrot or potato, they're eating it and it goes away, right? Same thing with the water gel crystal. They're eating it, it disappears. You don't reuse it. What you'll notice is you might be finding the dehydrated water gel crystal if you've put in too much moisture at one time and they've just evaporated, the air has evaporated, and it's gotten down to that dense granule. Mealworms won't go after that. One, it's really hard and it's hard for them to chew into, and two, there's no nutrient value in a water gel crystal. It's purely a water delivery system. And so, think of it like a bottle of water. We are, as humans, we're drinking what's inside of here. We're not consuming the bottle, right? Same thing with the water gel crystal, although they're consuming it. That was not a good analogy. I'll have to come up with a better one. We'll go with potato for now. It's like a potato. They're going to eat it and it's going to go away. Yes, it's a once and done thing. What you might find though is if you put too much in and you get that water gel crystal that's down in there, that could be rehydrated. I haven't personally done that because it's too big of a pain in the neck to try to find those if they are in there. Every now and then, and this usually happens with a bin that's higher and taller than all of us here, we might find a bin that wasn't producing as much, or might have been from a beetle tray that was super old and just didn't lay as many eggs, and so there aren't as many mealworms in there consuming the substrate and the water gel crystals. And when we take that bin down to process it, it's just full of water gel crystals. At that point, I might mess with it if I'm not busy that day. But those things are fairly inexpensive, and it's not worth messing with for the most part. Fruit flies. Ooh, good questions. I did not see the fruit fly thing. Oh man, and of course the scrolling just took it all away. Kai, that's how we treat our trays, clean once used. Yep. We're in that rotation now. I leave them overnight and they seem to be gone. Spray the ornamentals too, no problem with escapees. Okay, I'm getting more and more confident with the spraying. We might see a reduction in water gel crystal use. I'm okay with that. I can go to just water, which would be great. Ian, how do I keep fruit flies away? You responded, if you only feed enough to last 12 hours rather than 24, you massively reduce the amount of material to attract them. I also use pantry moth traps, which trap fruit flies as well. Not by design, just lucky, I guess. Yeah, because they'll stick to it, right? Is that what a pantry moth trap is? Just like a sticky thing, because then that'll catch anything that's flying around that lands on it. And I think you're spot on, Ian. It's a matter of if there's somewhere for those things to lay their eggs, they are attracted to that, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to lay their eggs. They're trying to eat, and so they're attracted to those things that are too wet and too moist. Kai, what's your thought process for monitoring CO2? So yesterday, a couple days ago, I posted about wanting to try to find a CO2, O2, and air particulate monitor of some kind. So today I've got sensors to track temperature and humidity. The thought process behind wanting to track O2 and CO2 is just to see whether the exhaust that we're doing. So I have an exhaust fan. It's a greenhouse exhaust fan, but same concept. It's an industrial type scenario, and it activates. I just switched it. We had it in the evening, so overnight it would kick on 4 or 5 times at intervals, run for 30 minutes, and shut off. So the intent with that is to expel the air that's in there, pull in fresh oxygen, fresh air for the colony. I recently switched this week to doing that during the day, just from a temperature perspective. It's starting to get cold in the evening, and so if I pull that cold air in, I have to heat the room. And so I switched it up to where now I'm pulling in the warmer air during the day, so it's less of a have to heat that up scenario. The reason I want to monitor the CO2 and the O2 is to see if I'm doing it too often or not often enough. Like we haven't had any issues from a human perspective of walking in there and like getting dizzy because there's not enough oxygen. But I would like to monitor it to get that data to see, like, do I need to run it less? Do I need to run it more? And so I feel like if I'm able to see the O2 and the CO2 stats, that would help me understand whether or not it's necessary. Because in the dead of winter here, it could get really cold. We're not like Antarctic cold, but if I don't have to pull that cold air in, then I don't have to heat it up and warm it up, etc. So that was the thought process with the CO2 thing. I don't know if I might be on the wrong track there. That was just my thought. What I would really love to be able to do is monitor the particulates, though, so we could make sure that our filtering stuff that we turn on and the exhaust that we usually turn on when we're working in there, especially for frass harvesting, I want to make sure that that's functioning and working correctly. And so hopefully that data point will help. Helen from Western Australia, welcome. I think we've got Ian from your neck of the woods too. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys were able to make it. Scroll up before the water gel comment about the lowest temp for supers. Glennis, was that the lowest temp? Is there another question up there? Let me look at Lynn's here and then I'll start scrolling. Lynn, eliminating vegetable matter and only using spraying as a means of water delivery has been a game changer. I find my mealworms become extremely active following spraying. Yep, they go crazy. And instead of seeing them only near the vegetable matter, I see them throughout the entire tray, truly the front to back and one side to the other. That is one of the really good things about the water gel crystals as well as spraying, right? Because spraying is dispersing that across the whole tray. And so instead of having to go from, even with water gel crystals, they're still traveling to get to that thing. And there's only so much surface area on that, and it gets smaller as they consume it. And so it kind of turns into that situation. If anybody has chickens, you have those chickens that are bigger and will push people out of the way, push their fellow chickens out of the way to get to the feed. The mealworms, it's whoever gets there first is the luckiest. Once they all fill onto that and attach onto it. With the water spraying, it's much more dispersive across that tray and allows all of those mealworms in there an opportunity to try to get to that water source and get the moisture. I mean, they could pull it in from the air. Even with a medium humidity, like if you're 30 to 50%, they're still going to be able to pull the moisture out of the air, but it takes more energy. And so instead of growing, they're going to pull the moisture in. One of the things I've got on the list for several months down the line, I've got other things I need to work on to increase production, but once we're there, one of the things I'm looking at is a sprayer that has multiple heads on it. So that instead of having one spray nozzle, you spray and spray and spray. I'm going to have nozzle, 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 and then just walk down the aisle and spray. What I want to do is avoid automation for a couple of reasons. It's tough for me to take care of, and it's an expense, and it's way over my head as far as how to fix it if it breaks. So if I can try to automate with manual labor still, but make it cost effective, that's the goal. Oh man, good talk. I'm going to take a pause here and drink some water. I'm not going to eat the bottle. I thought I had a good one there, a good analogy, but it didn't work out. That's all right. I don't know if anybody's been following along with the pupa or the dermestid beetle experiment. I checked them all this morning. There still wasn't any change. The mealworm is still alive. The dermestid larvae are still alive. And the beetle's still alive. So nobody has eaten anybody yet. And then the larva, so I'm trying to get one of these dermestids to pupate. One of these little guys, those furry, hairy buggers. Oh, get over there. That guy that just fell off. Let me just see if I can hold it and show you. That guy, fuzzy guys. I want to get some of these to pupate so that I can get some close-up pictures of it, compare it to a mealworm pupa, that sort of thing. Get some of that info documented and get it accessible for everybody. Because dermestids seem to be a common issue. Eat a mealworm live. Yeah. You first. How about that? You do it, I'll do it. I've eaten them before, but I haven't eaten them live. I don't know that it would bother me, but I haven't done them before. It might really gross me out. I don't know. if we do that sort of thing, that'll be a very specific. We will have a live where we are going to do this so that folks know. Thanksgiving special. Oh man. Yeah. Thanksgiving is coming up. All right. So, Brid, tips for keeping pupa alive. I tried everything. Perhaps it's just bad Irish weather. My hatch rate is poor. Excuse me. Hydration prior to them pupating is tremendous, right? Because they're the question is, do you sorry. I think you should chew it, right? Like, you can swallow it, but where's the fun in that? Anyway, Brid. So I struggled a bit recently, and I thought it was lack of moisture in the bin once they're pupated in the bin, I put a paper towel over them. At the time I was using bran, and a couple of folks suggested doing it without the bran. Just put the pupa in there, put the paper towel on top. That seems to have reduced it. We had a couple hiccups here where the pupa trays got sprayed and killed a lot. So don't do that. That was an accident. No, we won't do that again. So it could be that they were smothered by that. They couldn't get out. Not very good. Many of my pupa are turning into beetles with missing legs. So, sorry, Brid. When you say it's the bad Irish weather, what's happening? Like, what kind of weather? If your humidity is really low, you're going to need to supplement that tray somehow. And really low to me would be like less than 40%, probably less than 50%, maybe even. So if you could get a closed drawer for your pupa and put a misted paper towel in there and create a microclimate to increase the humidity in that area, if you can't increase it in the room that you're in, that would be one option. To try to just kind of build a microclimate. Or if you've got an open tray, if you can put something over the top of it. There shouldn't be a ton of heat generated off those pupa, so you're not going to cook them unless there's an external heat source or something, and now you're trapping that heat in there, obviously. But that might be helpful. I'm thinking about doing a pupa locker where the temp and relative humidity is constantly 80. Yep, like a little an incubator. It's like an egg incubator, except it's for mealworm pupa, right? That could work. That would be really interesting. Yeah, now I'm thinking too hard. I got to stop doing that, Kai. Maybe the worm was missing legs before pupating. Yes. So that's an interesting question, or an interesting thought. I wonder if they are being messed with before they hatch. Could be, or they're being chewed on after or when they're coming out. They're kind of stuck in that exoskeleton as they start to emerge, right? And they have to get rid of that exoskeleton as they're starting to emerge. I wonder if they're being tackled and messed with. Use a pot grow tent. Yeah, any kind of grow tent would work. Increase the humidity. You could put a ton of trays in there. I gotta write that down. That's a good one. I like that. Kai for the win. Grow tent for pupa. 80% humidity. That's a good idea. We might have to do a video test or a series on that. Get that out to the group. Felicia's here! Yay! Good to see you. I have a large incubator that I use for snake and chicken eggs. I may need to play around with this idea too. Does the incubator, like the chicken incubator or the egg incubators, generate a lot of heat, right? Are they dialable? Adjustable? Oh man, adjustable. So that you can you get high humidity in one of those. That'd be really interesting. I shouldn't worry about it being a deformity. Lynn, I wouldn't worry about it unless it's like, how prevalent is it? If it's more than, I don't know, 15 to 20%, then it's probably something to look into. But if it's the occasional one, it's nature. I mean, even though we're raising these things in confined places, nature is going to do some things on its own. Sue, thank you for being here. Hello, Sue. I've had pupa recently that had normal heads and legs, but the body did not really develop. It was basically a pupa tail. I've not figured out why. Yeah, that's interesting. Pretty prevalent. Huh. There's got the ability to eat and breed, I wouldn't worry. Yeah, I mean, if it's some sort of genetic mutation, as long as they're moving, and as long as the mealworms continue to be like they produce eggs and whatnot, it may not be a detrimental type scenario. If you don't want that, you could cull those, but if they're being caused by something other than a genetic thing, then you may not be able to get rid of that problem by just culling and trying to adjust the genetics over time. Incomplete metamorphosis. Yeah, like they just didn't get out. Maybe the tent, right? If you can get the humidity in there better, maybe that would help them be able to get out of the exoskeleton. It's worth a try. All of a sudden I got real stopped up here. I'm sorry. Felicia, I use a proportional thermostat in the incubator. I can dial it to within 0.5. Oh man. Excellent. Fluctuations in temp can do that. There we go. So it's starting, let's see. I want to go back here to Lynn. I'm not sure where you're located, but like for me, I'm starting to have big temperature swings from evening to during the day. And so I wonder if there were some big swings that you had. If Kai's saying that temperature fluctuation is going to mess with the pupa coming out, then that might be what's going on. It seems to be the same leg for the most part. Oh, that's freaky. Interesting. I've upped the humidity and that helped me. Helen with the win here. I've upped the humidity and that helped me get less deformation. So that humidity and temperature, that does line up with like what Kai is saying with the struggle for them to get out of the pupa state into the beetle. If temperature and humidity are up there and consistent, it sounds like that might help out, Lynn. Although maybe it'll just make the other leg problematic. No. All right, I just got a ding for a message. Let me go check and make sure I'm not missing something. Look at a message and pause this. So we're back. Thank you for tagging me in that. Somebody asked the question of what I wish I would have known back when I started. That's a good question. What do I wish I would have known back when I started? I struggled for a long time with, I probably did too much research. I looked into, I read a lot of studies and a lot of laboratory tests. And I based quite a bit off of that. Oh, are we back, guys? Can you hear me and see me okay? Somebody throw in a comment there if you can. I can see you guys, and I'm getting some instant messages, so I'm going to try to, instead of messing with the live, I'm going to get my computer back up. If you guys can see me, please let me know. Although, if you can't comment, which I think is what folks are messaging me, can't post comments to live anymore, Felicia, can you hear me? Can you still hear me talking? No permissions to add comments when trying. That's probably my fault because you can hear and see me. Okay. So I'm hoping that the comments will come back. I flipped over to Messenger for a second and the live paused, and then I restarted when I came back in. So you guys can hear and see me. Audio video is fine. Okay. So the question was, what do I wish I had known when I started? I wish I had just started. I did a lot of analysis and a lot of reading of laboratory studies and things like that. And what I found is, while those studies were not wrong, they weren't from an operating mealworm farm. And so the things that I thought either I could control or I would be able to do or that I had planned for didn't really come to fruition. And so what I wish I had done is, in tandem with researching, I wish I had just started raising mealworms, because getting that exposure and that experience to it really changed the way I did the things I was planning on doing. The other thing is, I wish I had started asking and reaching out a lot sooner than I did. I didn't share anything for years. If you go back and look at some of my oldest YouTube videos and some of my oldest TikTok's only like 2 years old at this point, but like Facebook and my business page, I didn't share in the beginning. I am from the corporate world of America, for better or for worse. And in corporate America, you don't talk about what you do behind the scenes. You don't talk about how you do it. You don't talk about why you do it, because that is your advantage in corporate America. And so it took a long time for me to break out of that mentality. And I wish I had done that a lot sooner, because as soon as I started sharing things and talking and engaging, and asking questions and showing that I didn't know what I was doing. Sometimes I still think I don't know what I'm doing, and I just post it and see what happens. And you guys have excellent feedback. We get people like Kai and Felicia and Sue and Glennis and all these folks who are experimenting and doing and going through things and trying things. I wish I had done this a lot sooner. I was in this co-op group a long time ago. Max started this thing well before I ever joined. And I wish I had just started sharing a lot sooner. So that's probably my biggest thing. Like, that has been my biggest barrier, is the knowledge aspect and the learning aspect. So I don't know if anybody's on the fence about that or thinking about it, but that's what I wish I had done sooner. All right, we are a few minutes over. We'll keep going here since I messed around with Facebook here. If you guys are able to throw in any more comments, feel free to do that. But as we start to close things out, just a reminder that this will post to the co-op group, and then I'll take that and get it uploaded to YouTube so that we have it just in case anything happens to the group. And so it'll be out there probably this weekend. I've got a couple other YouTube videos I need to load. Did some responses to some questions that I received. If you guys have anything, like if there's anything here that I didn't answer, I'll go through this too after it posts and do some replying. And you can always reach out in the co-op group, ask your questions. If you're feeling shy about asking questions, I would really advocate for you to do that. It's one of the best ways that we learn in the group, is by people sharing, asking questions and whatnot. So definitely do that. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, Justin at MidwestMealworms.com. I'm happy to answer your question there. I would also like to share it too. So one of the things I would ask is if you do reach out, if you'd like me to share the question. I don't do any personal information or details like that, but I do like to share the info. So, all right. Well, I'm unfortunately not seeing any more comments. If you guys have anything, DM me, Facebook, send me an instant message. I'm seeing things from folks, but no questions right now. So hopefully you guys are having a wonderful evening or morning, as it were. Thank you for Glennis and there's one other person. My brain is melting now. Thank you guys for helping me with the time zone stuff. I apologize that I can't remember your name, but thank you so much for the help with that. I'm glad we were able to find a time that we could make work. I'll try to get, over the weekend, I'll try to get another one scheduled for next week. I will be at a bird expo show, so my Tuesday through Thursday is shot. I'll probably be posting, hopefully, unless I'm super busy, but we'll probably do a live Monday or Friday. So I try to mix it up on the days and times, but next week's going to be a little tight. Monday might work though, so it'll be short notice though. I like to give a little bit more notice than that, but all right. Let me double check this. New message request, Catherine. You can see me. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to our Aussie folks for politely requesting we do this at different times of the day. It was sort of my lack of knowledge there and thinking about different time zones. But I really appreciate you guys doing that. Continue to post in the group, ask questions, and we'll keep things going. Thank you guys so much. Have a really awesome weekend, and we'll talk soon.